Hello there. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. We're here to try to make the world safe for ADHD. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been in private practice for at least the last 20 years, and I had about another 20 years working for a big institution. I see at least 50 to 60% of my practice is ADHD, doing evaluations, treatment, and so on. And I also am the parent of an ADHD child, and I have made just about every mistake you can make raising an ADHD kid. Sorry about that, son, but we didn't know. We just, back in 30 years ago or so, we didn't have the knowledge that we do now. Back then, it was like nobody ever talked about ADHD. A lot of us weren't even sure that it actually existed. The evaluation procedures were primitive at best, and the treatments weren't as nearly as well established as they are now. So we just had a lot of troubles. And what I want to talk about today is what I see a lot of parents having trouble with. And one of the things you've got to understand and embrace, okay? You do the best you can, okay? That is not going to make your child quiet and perfect and willing to sit still and all the other stuff. You've got to accept that. And you've got to be able to adapt and adjust so that you're not always feeling ashamed or embarrassed or close to tears or angry. None of those work for you, okay? So I want to talk about assertiveness. Being assertive means that you stand up for yourself and your child, but you don't yell and scream and jump up and down or break into wailing sobs or any of that. You're adult, logical, firm, and consistent. That is, you state your point. If they don't seem to get it, you repeat your point. And you keep doing that until they get it. Okay? I spend a lot of time looking at different literature and looking at people's comments, and people's concerns. And you see a lot of people who are clearly mostly embarrassed by their child. And guess what? You didn't do anything wrong, okay? It wasn't because Mom ate too much candy during the pregnancy, or Dad because I don't know what, you weren't around or something. But what you do need to understand. There's about 3 or 4 things you really need to do as a parent of an ADHD child to kind of stay ahead of the game and keep your sanity. First of all, and obviously, know something about ADHD. Okay, now that seems obvious, but people kind of don't do the research. They don't do. A lot of parents of ADHD just have the experience, but don't really read what other people have written about the experience and how to improve it and so on. I've got a couple of authors I would recommend highly. There's Dr. Thomas Brown, there's Dr. Russell Barkley, and there's Dr. William Dodson. I highly recommend any and all of them, although, frankly, Dr. Barkley's a little bit tougher to read, but the information is incredible. So, if you don't know for sure much about ADHD and you want to learn, those are the places, or at least some of the places you go to. You can go on site on the internet, but some of the information on the internet is a little bit too woo-woo. That is, it's based on maybe one individual's experience rather than a body of research that's consistent and repetitive and, supports a consistent conclusion. That's what you want, okay? Yeah, there's somebody out there who's going to tell you that green jelly beans made their child's ADHD better, but I doubt it. Okay, so be conservative, okay? Everybody's worried so much about things that have been proven to be effective that they don't spend much time worrying about things that haven't been proven to be effective. So do not experiment. Okay? Let's just put it that way. There are all kinds of weeds and seeds and stuff out there, and you need to know a whole bunch about research before you can decide something is a proven conclusion, okay? There are all sorts of things that can happen when you are studying a group of people, and they lead you to draw the wrong conclusions. That's all. Let's just leave it at that, and I won't go on a long harangue, okay? So again, Thomas Brown, Russell Barkley, Barkley, L-Y, and then William Dodson, Dodson, and I highly recommend any of their writings. Okay, and then number 2, and this is where you can get into a lot of trouble. Know what your school system is supposed to be doing for you. Okay? When you have had your child diagnosed, and in that diagnostic report, there should be some recommendations for accommodations for your child in that school. Accommodations are, this is under Section 504 of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And basically, it's changes in the routine that make it so that problems with attention and concentration don't interfere with getting an education. Things like testing in a distraction-free environment, preferential seating, sometimes being given the notes before class, having everything that you turn in count full value rather than having points taken off because it's a day late or whatever. Okay, those are things that have been done and can be done, and there are a bunch of others. But you have to understand that it won't always be easy to get what the law says you're supposed to get. So you may have to honestly fight a little bit to get it. I know in my area it's not easy. Okay, you have to really know your rights, and you have to be willing to stand up for yourself to get what you want. I mean, schools, they don't like the extra trouble. They don't like if it's an IEP, which it probably won't be if it's just ADHD. That's an extra expense. And some school systems just aren't really that accommodating. And a lot of them, unfortunately, there are a lot of wonderful teachers out there in the world. My mother was a teacher, okay, so I'm not going to slam teachers, but there are a bunch of them out there who know nothing about ADHD and are quite satisfied with that. And then there are others who actually have ADHD or have children with ADHD, and they're way more sensitive and accommodating. Unfortunately, they are also not school administration. So sometimes school administration people are, they're petty bureaucrats, bottom line oriented, and don't really, their concern is not so much your child. And they're only going to care so much anyway. So you have to be willing to stand up and be assertive, be firm, repeat yourself, know your rights. And speaking about knowing your rights, I highly recommend a website called Rights Law, and that is spelled like the Wright brothers with a W, W-R-I-G-H-T, Rights Law. It's run by Pete Wright and his wife. He is a lawyer who is known for arguing educational law cases, and he has won in the Supreme Court. But they have a lot of very helpful stuff on that website, including a couple of books that give you information about your rights under the law, and I highly recommend them. Okay, that's Pete Wright, Rights Law. It's a wonderful resource. Most of it's free. The things that cost money don't cost a great deal of money. It has a lot of books that will help you out in terms of, again, knowing your rights and the school's responsibilities and so on. So that is huge. And then the next thing I want to talk about is, okay, I want to say it lovingly, get over yourself, okay? Quit being ashamed, embarrassed, etc., etc. You're not inadequate. You're not impotent. You aren't doing wrong things. You have a child with special needs. And unfortunately, the way those special needs show up a lot of times is in behavior that, disrupts things, I guess would be one way to put it. You've got to get over that. You can't be effective in trying to get your child the services he or she needs if you're meek and dependent and backing off all the time, okay? With an ADHD child, it's a genetic disorder, and the only role you had in that is if it comes from your side of the family, and even that you didn't really have control over it. Who knew, right? So it's one of those things that you just have to pull yourself up and convince yourself that you have to be assertive. You have to be able to stand up for your child and not be embarrassed and want to run away or whatever your impulse is. Okay? I've seen lots of that. But basically, if you're overly emotional about your child, other than just loving the heck out of him or her, that's going to be a problem for you, okay? Being angry is not the same as being assertive. Being tearful and embarrassed and red-faced and all that stuff is not the same thing as being assertive, okay? Being assertive means you stand up for what you know should be done, and that you have done the research so that you have a balanced and nuanced position, okay? Ooh, I just made that up, I think. I like that. But you are there to get the best situation for your child, okay? And you have studied enough that you know what that is, and that similar things have been done in other school systems. You've done the research, and now you're just going to keep repeating what your expectations are of the school system. Okay? And it doesn't have to be a war. It doesn't have to be a fight. Matter of fact, it shouldn't be. Angry people aren't very accommodating, let's put it that way, regardless of the situation. So, assertive. That is being appropriately firm, knowledgeable, and being able to repeat your requests over and over again. Okay, you don't lose control of your emotions. You don't get really, really angry, and you don't get really, really teary and embarrassed and all that other stuff. You know what needs to be done for your child. You've read about it. You've seen it done in other school systems. That's the way you need to be. That's the attitude you need to be. Okay? And understand. People tend to back off from somebody who knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about. Okay? If they're pretty sure you don't know what you're talking about, they'll just kind of do what's most convenient for them. And, my mother was a teacher. I'm not going to say bad things about teachers. I think they all would like to have more power and authority with their classrooms. But we're not here to slam teachers. We're not even here to slam school systems. But you've got to understand that their priorities may not be your priorities. Okay? I hope this has been a little bit helpful. I mean, I'm not trying to create a war zone or anything, but I have had so many parents come into my office and with tales of woe about how, their child was identified in the 3rd grade and has had absolutely no accommodations or services, and he's a junior in high school. I mean, and he's thinking about dropping out, and on and on and on. That happens a lot, okay? And I see it a lot. And it's hard because you got a kid who's almost ready to graduate. You can't do a whole heck of a lot. There's just not time. Learning how to handle and cope with ADHD and how to get yourself an education while having it, that takes some years to establish those patterns and that self-awareness. So you're probably not gonna do it in less than a year. And anyway, see it all the time. So don't be one of those parents. Be assertive. Know what you're talking about. Know what your child needs. And you should get that, okay? When you do a good evaluation, you should get input that lets you know what your child needs. Use that information. Be firm, be assertive. No yelling and screaming, you can pound on the table if you have to, but generally that's not the best approach to handle in that situation, or handling the situation. So that's me for this week, okay? And remember, we're here trying to make the world safe for ADHD, because ADHDers think outside the box, and people who think inside the box never change the world, but outside the box thinkers always do. And maybe your child will be the one who comes up with a great solution for one of our many problems. Okay, we'll catch you next week. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. That's Gingras. This has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat, and we will catch you next time. Oh, I forgot. My website is terrygingrasphd.com, and we have some articles and things. I'm still looking. I know I promised folks a checklist for medication effects, and I've been researching diligently. Haven't found one I'm satisfied with, so I may make up a new one of my own, and I'll let you know when it's done. Okay? Bye now.